Hey, denture loving family, how are you? It's Tennessee, and I've had a few of you all ask me, hey Lynn, so you adjusted your teeth, your dentures. How did you do that? Well, let me just put a real quick disclaimer out here that don't do what I do. I'm just going to tell you what I did because for me, it worked out better that way. I will also tell you that my background's in physical therapy. I am very aware of how soft or how hard you need to push on certain things because I used to do orthotics, massage, the whole bit. So I've got that kind of background going on in my head, so I'm aware of all that. But when I got these, I did not realize that they were going to be needing to have so much maintenance done to them. Does that make sense? I don't think you did either, right? Because when I got these immediates right after surgery, they didn't work. They were really big and they hurt and bulky and all of that. They tore my sutures loose. I mean, it was just really crazy. And so when I got these, the original these, I also had bone spurs. And I don't know if y'all ever had any of those things, but they're like little slivers of glass and they're not comfortable at all. And, I ended up having to dig those baby jewels out and it just hurt really, really bad. And then they still expected me to keep these things over top of all that. I mean, y'all, it just didn't make sense. So when I went in and had my first adjustment with them, which was just a few days after I got these, I noticed that when she would adjust one area, that I'd have another area, and then I'd have another area, and I thought, that's crazy. And I found that I was wanting to call and make appointments all the time just for adjustments. So I'd go in there and sit for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, waiting on a 15-minute, adjustment. And then I realized that she was just using the Dremel, and I thought, my life is too busy. I don't have that kind of time. And so I just took it upon myself that I had these in the tool shed, and so I just went and got my Dremel along with a little bit of sandpaper, couple different textures of them, and I knew all the ends where this one is my buffer, but there's some over there that I actually used. And remember, when you do adjustments here, less is more, right? So you don't want to take off too much too fast. And I found that for me, it worked better if I was at home where I wasn't getting upset, where I could literally put those things in my mouth, bite down, maybe go get something, maybe just something to try to chew it and see if I had pain. But by the way, y'all, I was never really able to eat with these, okay? I've had these since October the 22nd. It took me from October 22nd to basically I think it was more like December the 3rd or 4th. By the time I got them adjusted enough to where I felt like I was comfortable being out in public with dentures, that I wasn't afraid that they would fall out of my mouth because I could use Fix-It-In or whatever. But the slime and all of the yuck that was coming in my mouth, I noticed was also upsetting my system again, because everything I was swallowing down was getting into my stomach. And then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, here comes this interstitial cystitis again, and I don't need that. And however, it was at the point where I was like, well, I've either got to learn to deal with these prosthetics with using this stuff, or I got to figure a different way. And January the 3rd, I was supposed to have an appointment where they were going to go in, and I asked them to make me a new bottom because this one didn't fit over here on this side. It was just too floppy, too big, and the sidewalls were really small. So I asked them if they could make me another one. Well, when I got there, the tech said, well, we have orders to go ahead and do a complete hard reline. Well, if you don't know what a hard reline is, well, see my other video because I go into major detail about that. When she did the hard reline, y'all, I'm telling you, my teeth were just like I had gotten a whole different set of temporaries. I was so disgusted. I was so upset because everything that I had set up with all these adjustments is now gone, because they do a new impression. So they did a new impression on January the 3rd based upon my gum line that I currently had at that point. They took all these teeth, which these are my original teeth, but the acrylic was completely different because they built the acrylic on the new impression. The impression, y'all, is what makes or breaks the fitting of your dentures. Don't let anybody else tell you. And if you don't know how to do, if they don't know how to do a good impression, I've also got a video on that. But you got to get aggressive when you go in there, and you can't let them do it. I let this other girl do it. My first ones, I didn't. But this one, on the 3rd, I just thought, oh, she's more seasoned and she'll know what she's doing. And all due respect to her, I'm sorry, she did not. And so I came out January the 3rd with ill-fitting dentures again. It was sick. It was sad. So my teeth were also whacked. These two teeth were way up in here. They were short. These two teeth, they were way down and sticking this way. And these teeth had no personality whatsoever. And I thought, what did they do with my teeth? So I came home. I adjusted where I needed to adjust. I took off the front here of where I felt like things were way too thick. This up here was so thick. And anyway, so I used my own Dremel. People were like, well, what about your warranty? What about it? These are temporaries. I had only planned to use them for 6 months, and then I'm going to go in and have my permanents, right? Well, that's changed now, because when I got these on the 3rd of January, and I fixed them to where I felt like they looked like real teeth, I was okay with the way they looked, but they still were so big, and my mouth was changing, and they wouldn't fit, and I was doing all of the Fixodent and all this, and I was noticing again that my gut was getting sick again, and then Denture Fit came into my life, and I've had Denture Fit in for 3 weeks now, and I will be honest with you and tell you that from October 22nd till 3 weeks ago, which I don't even know what the date was, but 3 weeks ago from this past Friday, I put Denture Fit in. Now before that, I could smile, I could take pretty pictures, I could talk, but y'all, I couldn't eat. I dropped 3 dress sizes, which I probably needed to lose some of that anyway, but not unhealthy way. But 3 weeks ago, this past Friday, I was eating again. I was literally comfortable enough to go into a restaurant and eat what I wanted on the menu. I've eaten a hamburger, I've eaten chips, I've eaten all kinds of stuff. And people are like, well, yeah, but I've been doing that a long time. Well, good for you. But these are my teeth, and I'm telling you, they did not fit me until Denture Fit. And then when I got Denture Fit in, boom, my world has changed. So now I've decided that what I'm going to do is, I've noticed in the last 3 weeks, even with Denture Fit, that my mouth has changed. I can tell some shrinkage going on even still. So what I believe I'm going to do is, I'm not going to go in on the 15th of March and start my permanents. I'm that comfortable with these that I think I want to just go ahead and hold off for another month or so and let all the shrinkage that will leave before I start my permanent process. Because y'all, I don't want anything between me and my actual denture after I get my permanents. I don't want it to be a hassle. I don't want it to be a burden for myself. So I've elected to hold on to these temporaries with Denture Fit in them so that it can get me to the next point. And that is having permanent ones that actually fit. So I'm not going to waste my money on my permanent ones, knowing that God forbid I would have to go in and pay for another hard reline, because that hard reline is a pain. And what are they, like $400 or something to have a hard reline done? So no, I don't want to do that. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it, and whatever you do what works for you. But for me, that's what I had to do, and I will continue until I get where I need to be. So y'all have a good day. See ya.